can all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Any of you here for the first time? Anybody? Those who are here for the first time, what brings you here? I kind of figured that. Yeah. Well, welcome. Did they tell you where you were going, or you got warned? All right, cool. On your own volition. Nice. That's nice to hear. What else? Anyone here for the first time? So there's something I was going to touch on briefly, just because it came up again earlier, and then we'll get into meditation and things like that. But there was a question. I think it first came up about 2 weeks ago. I mean, it comes up on and off, and I talk about it quite a bit. But is 2 weeks ago, someone asked a personal question towards me about me, my journey, things like that. And then somebody followed up that question. They said, and I'm always relatively vague. I try not to talk too much about me or my stuff. It's not why we're here. But then somebody asked me a very personal question. They said, well, how did you do, whatever it was, what they were talking about? What they were talking about is kind of irrelevant. But what I said to them very directly was, I had to change my life. Period. And most people with this path and this practice don't want to change their life. This is my, obviously, opinion based on 23 years of watching people in Buddhist circles, is that very often people want to continue the way their life is, like literally their routine. Same friends, same places, same jobs, same spending habits, same going out patterns, like all of that. And then drop into a Buddhist thing once a week and then expect like shit to be different. And then they scratch their head and they're like, I wonder why I'm still so miserable. Yet they're not making any changes outside of, and when I say here, for the one or two of you might be brand new, I don't necessarily mean like outside of the Dharma Bum Temple. But I mean, outside of whatever your spiritual journey is, whatever your meditation path is, whatever your yoga path is, whatever journey you're on, like, are you making changes out there? Because your life doesn't change because you come to a Buddhist temple. Your life doesn't change because you do a meditation practice. Your life changes when you change your life. And it's just like so many people miss that message. And it's, And so my response to this individual, and I'm always very, that's a lot. I was going to say I'm always very careful or cautious how I say things, but that's not true. I try to be sensitive, especially if it's new people, right? And I don't want to like completely scare them off and freak them out and be too rough on them. But at the same time, in many ways, I just feel that's the most authentic, genuine thing I can do, is that just blatant honesty, which is very difficult for people at times. Because very often, and again, I'm making a lot of generalizations here, so you can ignore everything I'm saying if it doesn't apply to you. But very often, people don't necessarily want to be told directly things that they should change. Very often, people want to keep everything that's going on in their lives and then just kind of be patted on the back and given a hug every once in a while and be told that everything's going to be okay. Well, It's not. If you don't make changes, nothing is going to change. It really is that simple. And so I think it's important to, and for me, I really looked at the life of the Buddha, and he was a prince, and he left the wealthy life, and he became a homeless, wandering beggar living in robes. The message, the suggestion is not at all for anyone here to take that journey. But to begin to ask yourself, as the Buddha taught, he was a renunciate. He renounced from his worldly possessions and his way of being. And he drastically changed how he lived his life. From the life of a prince with all the wealth and all the riches and everything he could have, to homeless, robed, wandering beggar, literally relying on other people to stay alive. If it were not for the generosity of other people, he would have died, simply because he would have had no food. So there was a drastic shift in his life. So when you come 2,500 years later and you begin to look at these teachings, always understand that where they're coming from is they're coming from a place of somebody who said this path isn't working, meaning he still was miserable. He still was suffering. He still was unhappy. All of those things. And so what did he do? He drastically changed his life. Now, again, often people today, I'm not even talking about drastically changing your life, but like a little bit. I mean, imagine like just a common thing, like most people spend so many years doing work, jobs, careers, professions, whatever it might be, that they're absolutely miserable with. It's just so many people do that. So for you younger ones in the room, don't do that, right? For you on the other end of the spectrum, what's done is done. And for those who are somewhere in the middle, you can still change. But think about how we live our lives and what we're doing all this work for. And then think about how often you go out to dinner, how much money you spend on meals. And one might think, well, what's wrong with going out to dinner? Nothing's wrong with going out to dinner, but something has to support that habit. Going out to dinner is expensive. So I didn't go into it then, and I'm not planning to now, but when I think about going back, 22 years, when I started to make changes, I stopped completely 100% going out to dinner. I was like, wow, that's a bunch of money I don't need anymore. And that means that's less work of miserable things I hate that I need to do. My first teacher, I share this a lot, but my first teacher, the Buddhist nun at the temple down the street when I started, she said, Jeff, you work so hard to make so much money to buy so many things. If you didn't have so many things, you wouldn't need so much money. You wouldn't have to work so hard. So it was like this thing that just clicked. I was like, what am I doing? I'm killing myself to buy a bunch of crap I don't need. Now, we need food. I'm not saying we shouldn't eat food, but think. And so when I talk about changing your life, like, could you not go out? And this doesn't apply to everybody. We're all in different places of privilege and lives here, right? But think about the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, the amount of clothes you buy, the amount of food that you consume, the amount of things that you just don't need that you get. Explore this stuff. And if you want things in your life to change, then change things. But don't use meditation or Buddhist teachings as the Band-Aid. Use it as a way to hopefully inspire yourself to say, I'm unhappy, if that's the case. I mean, if you're perfectly happy and peaceful, then, maybe you were just bored on a Tuesday night and wanted to show up here, right? But for those of you who are not perfectly peaceful and happy, use that as motivation and inspiration to say, what do I need to change in my life? Because Buddhism doesn't change your life. You change your life. Use Buddhism as a way to inspire you, to motivate you, to look honestly at all of the patterns you've set up in your life. And how many of them can you surrender and not attach to and move on from? So you don't spend any more time, regardless of where you are on this spectrum of life. So you don't spend any more time doing a bunch of shit you just don't want to do. Because that, my friends, is where so many people spend their life. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Anyone else think of Forrest Gump at that moment? Or was it just- yeah. All right, so we're going to start or continue with the meditation practice. To those joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Feel free to say hello as you are somewhere on the chat box, somewhere on the screen. There's a chat box there. A couple things to tell you before we begin with the meditation. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? You're just going to sit. You're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Again, if you are brand new, you're not going to shut your mind off. It's not going to go blank. You're not going to think nothing. Your mind will continue to race. I will say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to present moment, or simply to wake you up because you've fallen asleep, which isn't the end of the world. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are in a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. If you're on a bench or chair, also just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. Hands are on the knees or lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from your practice, just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives, but with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is, which I was alluding to earlier. It is direct perception into the present moment and learning to be with life as it arises, which is what very often people are trying to run away from. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in each moment. And that never changes. Our thoughts, our words, and our actions, that creates our reality. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone outside of us, which is where we spend so much of our time hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that. When we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. I'm not saying the actions of others are not important, nor that they don't have an impact on us and the world around us. They do. And this practice is not ignoring that, but it's learning how to engage with it from a place of loving kindness and compassion, and not from a place of hatred and anger. So with that, I'll pause. For me, really prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And we'll use the rest of our brief time this evening for questions. To those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. If you have any questions, you can put them on the chat box. I'll do my best to respond. So open up to questions. Yeah.
So I kind of get what you're saying, right? You want a different life, take different actions, right?
Yeah.
And so even a couple days ago, I was somewhere driving and something happened, and I'm like, after the fact, when I was seeing a friend, I was like, wow, I wonder, like, how could I make it so that in the moment I separate myself a little bit and don't react, right?
Mm.
And then I'm like, I should ask Jeff. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't. I know what he's going to tell me. He's going to be like, meditate, slow down.
I'm not going to tell you that.
I think
Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
That kind of thing. Because I'm like, I know what to do with this,
Yeah.
right? And if you're telling us, okay, you need to make changes, I can think of some. I was thinking, I'm like, oh, I want to get home and play Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
I just got it.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking, like, so what can the thing that you said is make changes? I'm
Yeah.
like, I know what changes I could make, but it's like, how do I kind of break free from the patterns?
Yeah. Yeah. No, great question. I think first and foremost, and I don't know if I just told the story again, so I may or may not tell it, but the story about the kid, the 20-year-old kid who San Diego State kid. Did you hear this story? No. Okay, I'll tell it again. Some of you have heard it. I just told it, I think Saturday maybe. But and Hazel, are they out like they're smoking? Can you just make sure they're not on the property if they're out there smoking, unless all 5 of them went to the bathroom? Thanks. So a long time ago, was leading meditation at KPBS once a week, and this 20-year-old kid was an intern there, and he'd done meditation like for 3 weeks, right? He came in on the next Monday, and he said, Jeff, I think I figured out how this meditation can help me. I was like, how's that? And he said, well, I was at a party Friday night, and this guy was hitting on my girlfriend, and I got really angry. And I realized I should take some deep breaths and walk away. And so I said, that's great. What happened? And he said, I hit him. Right. And I looked at him. I said, Cole, congratulations. He's like, congratulations. I got into a fight. I'm like, yeah, but you realized at that moment there was a better choice. He didn't take that choice. So you're sitting here asking me this question, recognizing almost sounds like immediately after you didn't respond the way you wanted to. Then you're sharing with a friend about it. Then you're pondering it. When did this occur? Okay, so from Sunday to Monday, and today's Tuesday. So for the last 72 hours, this has been on your mind. Beautiful. Whatever you're doing is getting you there. Because there's probably a time in your life 6 months ago, 3 years ago, whatever it is, the time, the timing doesn't matter. But there was probably a point in your life where you would not be sitting here at some Buddhist temple asking this question. Correct? Yeah. It would not have mattered at all. Whatever you would have done or didn't do, it would have been done. And you would not still be pondering how you could have responded differently. Right? So whatever you're doing, continue doing it. When I talk about creating change, it's not so fast that we begin to see the change in our lives, but continuously doing things that cultivate some sort of spiritual journey just to make you happy, like continuing to meditate daily, right? Continuing to study, continuing to be of service, continuing to help others. That's part of your life now. Those things are in your life. Those things are on your mind. You know those are good things for you to do. Continue to do them. And the answer will appear to you in your life, not from something I've said to you, like this is what you need to do. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Maybe just do more of it, right? In essence, what you're cultivating is a sense of compassion, because you realize that maybe you didn't respond in the best way, which means you care. And however long ago, you wouldn't have cared. So keep working at it. Does that make sense so far?
It does.
Yeah. I mean, I wish there was like in the moment, this is exactly what you need to do. And I can give you one example for that, but I still think the kind of slow chipping away at it is the practice. There's an acronym SOBER. I think John Kabat-Zinn, somebody came up with it, but when moments like that happen, the first thing you do is stop. Second one is to observe, like just take a look at the situation. The B is to breathe, take some deep breaths, then expand. to recognize that your entire life is so much more and bigger and more important than that one little moment. Because whatever the moment is you're asking about, did it really matter in any, like a year from now, is this even going to matter? No. And then respond. So in that moment, stop, observe, take some breaths, expand to your life being so much more than that one moment, and then respond. But yeah, you're doing great. Stay at it. Yeah.
Can I say something else?
Yeah, please.
I'm donating like 10% of my clothes. I'm not at the 50% mark.
That's all right.
But little.
That's great. Yeah, wonderful. And for the record, there's no campaign where I'm trying to get people. I'm not like trying to get people to get rid of their clothes, just so you know. She's like, Mom, Dad, why are these people donating their 10% of their clothes? You know, I'm always talking about, look at the things we're so attached to. The food, the clothes, all of this stuff that we're so attached to. Most of us could get rid of a lot of our clothes and still be just fine. 10% is a great place to start, you know? And that means, you know, a lot of people without clothes, newer clothes, and they get to appreciate it, you know? So thanks for sharing. What else? Yeah.
Similarly, this is on the way here, but I had a weird experience in the car on the way here where I pulled into an intersection and there was someone crossing the street and I didn't see them. It was very clearly an accident. This man hit my car. And I'm really upset by it. And I feel like I did all of the, up until the R, I feel like I got there.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm upset by it because I am cultivating a sense of compassion, which is like, I don't know, go on and say, you can get a horrible day, and obviously I didn't intend on the situation, but like, what do I do with the compassion? Like, then what?
Yeah. So now you're actually, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're actually angry at the way you responded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Wow. No, go ahead. Sorry.
with myself.
Yeah. Great. So let me just say that back to you. You responded in a way that lacked compassion, and you're upset with yourself for that. Beautiful. But that same compassion that you're realizing you should have had towards the other individual because maybe they had a bad day, where could you now turn that onto you? Maybe it wasn't a bad day for you, but maybe it's been a bad month, a bad year, a bad 5 years, you know? So when you have compassion for yourself, you begin to recognize like, hey, I'm a work in progress. And we're not always going to think or say or do the wisest, most compassionate thing. But the awareness of it is critical. And then the constant, Suzuki Roshi would say, you're all perfect exactly how you are, and you all could use a little improvement. So you just keep chipping away at it. That's great. Yeah. What else?
I don't know if you want to go over it, but I heard you maybe last week allude to a story about a snail.
Yeah.
It sounded like you had just told it or
Yeah.
It's at the moment. It sounds
Yeah.
intriguing.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite stories, but all right. Who here has heard the snail? I'm going to tell it anyway. It's just because who here has heard the snail story? Oh, that's all right. So great. So not that many of you. All right. So first, I usually tell it in response to a question. So let me just kind of preface this before I even tell the snail story. Anyone in this room like to try to control people or places or things? So this story applies to you, right? So when I was a kid, I grew up here, and where I lived, when it would rain, not just because it was there, but it's irrelevant, but snails would always come out. And I was like, 7, 8-year-old kid, and every time the snails would come out, I would stomp on them. I know. Hang on. Before you start throwing shit at me, all right? Hang on. So I would step on them. And as a kid, I just thought it was fun to step on the snails, right? And years later, 7, 8, 9 years old, whatever, as a kid. And fast forward to, years later, and I start going to the Buddhist temple down the street. And I had been there all of a few weeks or whatever. I don't remember the exact timing of when it was, but I took a precept ceremony where one of them was to refrain from harming, refrain from, killing. And around that time or shortly thereafter, at this time I'm 28 years old, and all of a sudden I'm reflecting back on like, oh my God, I used to like slaughter so many snails when I was a kid. And so I went on this, like I called in my head, like this Save the Snail crusade. And all of a sudden, like every time I would see snails for like 2 years, I was moving them. And, I was like, I'd see them in the pathway and I'd move them out of the way. And I just like, every time I saw snails, my heart poured out for these snails, thinking about all the snails that I stomped on when I was a kid. So this goes on for like 2 years, roughly. And then one day, I don't even know what, I heard a talk or read something, and it triggered, I was looking at what ultimate wisdom is, right? And all of a sudden it hit me again. And I was like, Jeff, you're such an idiot. Like, why do you think you know what's best for the snail? And I mean this very seriously. Like, I started pondering, like, okay, so at that time when I was saving the snails and I saw the snails on the sidewalk, I would pick them up off the sidewalk and move them off the sidewalk. I don't know where the snail's going. Maybe the snail was going the opposite direction. And so in the process of like, here the snail's cruising along, and I'm like, nope, you're going to go over here. And the snail's like, I was going that way. And in the process of going that way, then somebody else steps on them. So what I actually did, maybe they would have been fine, but in my like arrogance, thinking I knew what was best for the snail, what I did actually changed their course, which led them to get stepped on. Then the debate always is, well, if you put them in the grass, look, on a sidewalk, you can see them. People don't always walk on sidewalks, right? You have an opportunity, if you see them, to step on them or not step on them. If they're in the grass, you don't see them at all. You move them out of the way, you put them somewhere, not thinking at all about what they're doing or who they're hanging out with, where their family is. We're just like moving them places. We don't know anything about what they're doing. And so after having that whole kind of realization, now every time I see snails, I just kind of like say my own little weird little prayer things, and I just send love to the snails, and I feel all the years of snails that I killed. And I think about, I say my Namo Omi Tofu, I do my little blessing to them. I wish them well. I don't touch them. They're on their own journey. And make that about additional humans that we love and care for, who we're trying to control them and manipulate them and fix them. I get it. People are suffering. They're dying. You deal with addiction, things like that. Like, you want to help people. Everybody makes their own choices. And when we think we're helping somebody, maybe we're enabling them. When we think we're leading someone on a healthy path, maybe we're leading them further away. Maybe we don't know, is my point, right? Well, obviously, there are times we help people and we help people. But we also think we're helping people at times, and maybe we're not. So for me, I send my love to the snails and I leave them alone because they have their own journey. And I introduce that always, and it usually comes up in a situation where somebody loves someone and they're watching them go through a really hard time, and they want to fix them and change them and send them on a good path, and have a really hard time not attaching to their expectations of how they want the other person to be, realizing that the other people, they're making their own choices. And no matter how much we love and care for somebody and want the best for them, they're going to make their own choices. So that's the snail story. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because when you mentioned it last week, it made me think of something else. But now that you say it, I'm like, oh, that's I have a touch of the narcissism. So sometimes I really try to control people and do what I want them to do.
Yeah.
But that in particular made me think of my girlfriend, because I'm always like asking her not to get fat. And I know that sounds terrible, but it's more because I'm concerned about her health. She's not fat, but I'm in my daily life, I feel like I've gained so much from nutrition and taking care of my body. Because I've used it for a long time now. I feel like, man, I'm doing a lot better than a lot of 46-year-olds.
Sure.
And as I see her getting older, I worry about her health, and I think sometimes it comes off wrong.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, from one dude to another, I appreciate your honesty, but you probably shouldn't say it that way. Yeah. That's why I said I appreciate your honesty, and I'm trying to bring some levity back to it, But no, I mean, hang on. But in all seriousness, most people wouldn't just come out and admit that. I mean, you admitted that you have a bit of narcissism, and then you made that comment about what you tell her. Like, I appreciate the honesty. That's part of this path. Like, you're just being very genuine. This is who I am, how I've been, and what I do. And you're recognizing that maybe you shouldn't. And again, regardless of what the term is you use, regardless of who you say it or how you say it to, the message and the meaning is the same, is that you love someone, you care about someone, but they're going to make their own choices. And they don't always want to hear, from us. And they don't always want, us telling them. I mean, that you're smart. So my guess is you can alter this. You can change the way you speak about it. Think about, when you look at Buddhist teachings around right speech, is it necessary? Is it timely? Is it honest? Is it truthful? Does it cause harm? What is the response going to be? I mean, on one hand, yeah, like we all should take care of our body. Like, this is our shell. This is our body. Like, our body, is the Buddha taught, we age, we get sick, and we die. And our body is the shell. And the better we take care of our physical, mental, and emotional health, the longer we get to cruise through. So it is important. I'm not trying to take away from that. But the way we deliver messages, keep you out of a lot of trouble. Yeah.
So that hits home for me. Me being the controlling person and the judgmental person.
Yeah.
Thinks I'm doing good.
Sure.
But I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that it's big suffering for many years for me trying to control this other person. Is there a teaching that's in good lay language, like a Buddhist teaching that you could recommend?
About?
Deals with specifically trying to control someone else's behavior.
I just gave it to you.
I know.
The snail story.
No,
Do you want another one?
Yeah. I'm gonna go deeper.
So,
No, I'm just asking. It's
yeah, understood.
Lay language.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to get much more lay than a snail. But
All due respect.
no, I hear you. So here's the thing.
Not just Jasper's.
Yeah.
Like something from Buddhist teaching.
Yeah. Yes, there is. And the idea is that we have an attachment to our sense of self and our ego that thinks we are right. That's what the Buddha was, I believe, trying to get us to understand, is that we think our perception of reality is reality. And as Thich Nhat Hanh says, all views are wrong. Freedom from suffering, nirvana, freedom from suffering, is freedom from views. And for the most part, we roam around all day long thinking our views are correct. And this is difficult because, we all have our views. And there's, a lot of things in this room. I could say, do we all agree with this? Maybe all of us would say yes, others disagree, maybe say no, and then others split right down the middle. And a lot of people in this world causing a lot of harm from a lot of views. I sit here, as a heterosexual, white, male, able-bodied. I got every privilege in the book. I have no reason to fear anything based on my privilege, my upbringing, and everything. So my lens, my views, those are my views. That's what I come from. Can I be aware of my own ignorance and really challenge myself to say, Jeff, I'm not right? Can you challenge yourself? That's the challenge. And when you recognize that you're not right, it's just your opinion, that begins to create space from the sense of self that we're so attached to, right? I mean, the Buddha said the greatest attachment we have is to our sense of self. And that can mean a lot of different things. But in this example, to me, what the attachment to the sense of self means is, can I open up to the possibility that I'm just stuck on my views, and I'm really trying to then, as someone else who grew up trying to control and fix and manipulate everything and everyone and got really good at it, it's exhausting. I can tell by your reaction, it's exhausting. It will kill you.
Yeah.
Your stress,
I don't
you-
feel good with it.
no, your stress, your anxiety, your panic, your fear, like trying to control other people is exhausting. It's hard enough to make decisions for ourselves. So, non-attachment, non-self, love them. You know, and again, for those who've never heard non-attachment doesn't mean you detach. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're cutting off. Non-attachment is love. It means you love them unconditionally. You're not trying to control them. You're not trying to manipulate them. You're not trying to fix them. You are loving them for who and how they are. And you're meeting them where they're at in their life, whether you agree with them or not. Yeah. Thank you. Good questions. What else? Yeah.
I'm not in acceptance of stuff. Like earlier today, I was feeling crappy. I was like, I can't do this because it's not going to satisfy me. I can't do this because it's not going to satisfy me. Like and I know I have a problem with seeking like pleasure, like just a little too much, or a lot too much. But I know I have to work on like acceptance and like gratitude because I just want more and more and more. And it gets to a point where like I can think of a whole bunch of things that would bring me pleasure, like watching TV or like being in extreme emotional states or like doing drugs or whatever. And that's not where I want my life to go. I just want to feel okay, and I can't or I haven't been feeling comfortable or like satisfied. And I'm struggling with like just being in acceptance of where I am and not like, are there certain practices I can do to work on?
Yeah.
Do I just need to focus on gratitude and shut my mouth, or?
No, that's not working. I mean, you just, I mean, appreciate, I love everybody's just kind of honesty and being raw and real. Like you just told me you're working, it's not working. So, I would abandon that practice. I mean, odd to say to somebody abandon a practice of gratitude, like always try to cultivate that. But if you're looking for the gratitude practice and the journaling practice to like heal you and fix you, it's not working. Just what I heard. I mean, I don't know anything about you, but that's what I heard. But the practice is generosity towards others. Go help people. You ever help somebody in your life?
Oh, I used to all the time.
Okay. And when you helped someone, how did it make you feel? Great. So do you spend every day right now helping people? No. Because you're trying to help whom? You. Is it working? No. So stop trying to help you. Again, back to non-self, right? The Buddha said second noble truth, the root cause of our suffering is greed, anger, and ignorance. Okay. And so this idea of greed is that we spend so much of our lives, which is really just what you described in your question, trying to get more, seek pleasure, whatever, whether it's TV, whether it's drugs, whatever it is. We're constantly trying to get more. So the Buddha taught very clearly to overcome greed, practice generosity, giving time, attention, your heart, a smile, a hug, whatever you can give. Help people, help animals, help places. That is the practice to overcome this cause of deep suffering that we experience on a day-to-day basis. In that process, yes, gratitude, all those things are important, but we're all different and we all respond to different practices differently. So community service every single day, right? I mean, even in recovery, to being of service, it's huge. And like you said, you used to help people, it used to help you feel good, but you could help people tonight. You could help people tomorrow. Spend every day an hour somewhere being of service or helping someone somewhere. Because when you do, how are you going to feel? At peace. And when you feel at peace, even just 1 hour a day, that's probably more than what you got right now. Right? Yeah, I mean, I've been there. Many people in this room have been there. So carve out an hour to be at peace. So you're like, wow, that was nice. How did I do that? Oh, I helped people. Then maybe you get 2 hours for helping people. Next thing you know, you wake up and you spend your entire life just helping people. And you'll feel pretty damn good, you know? And you can still watch TV. I'd stay away from the drugs, but the TV you're good with. Yeah, what else? We got one more question, I think, and we'll close. Maybe two. Yeah.
Okay, regarding the practice, after 20 plus years of meditation, do you have any tips, or do you notice any difference how you deal with the intrusive thoughts? Because I have my own, like I try to say, I don't need this right now, go away.
Yeah.
But maybe you have some tips for us to start.
Yeah, there's a great, so in the Zen school, one of the schools that survives called the Soto Zen school.
I know that one.
Okay.
The one that I usually...
Okay, so you're familiar with Dogen? Yeah.
No.
Okay, so Dogen founded the Soto Zen school,
Oh.
lived 1200 to 1253, wrote the Shobogenzo, and he left Japan to go to China because he said he wanted to get the real Chan in Chinese and Japanese is Zen, same thing. You know what that word means? It actually means, it comes from the word jnana, knowledge, gnosis. It means meditation. So like in our culture, we say Zen meditation, which just means meditation, but welcome to America. So he went to China for 2 years to get these authentic, Chan Zen teachings. And he came back and they asked him, Master, 2 years, what did you learn? And he said, nose, vertical, eyes, horizontal. That was it. Doesn't sound like much, right? No. Don't look for some deep thing. Just live life every day and be kind. Often people, even in the nature of your question, which I get, trying to understand like, okay, well, what's going to happen with your mind? What's going to happen with your thoughts? Do you have messed up thoughts today sometimes?
Sure.
Yeah, you're probably going to have those the rest of your life.
Yeah, sure.
Did you do anything with most of them?
No.
No. Great. So what do you want to do differently?
Maybe not let them be so important. Don't give that much attention to them.
Yeah. But it sounds like if you didn't act on them.
Yeah, that's something positive, for sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to get at, which is, somewhat of a theme that's kind of just through tonight, is that people are often so critical of their practice.
Mm-hmm.
My mind's a mess. My mind has been a mess for 50 years. If I live another 50, it's going to stay a mess. The problem is not the mess of a mind. The problem is what you do with it. As you said, you see them, you listen to them, you hear them, you watch them. Don't act on them. That is the only advice I got for you, is to watch the nature of the mind, called the monkey mind. Watch the crazy mind, right? This is Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, right? They say that we use the wisdom practice to cut through the ignorance that's in our minds, right? And in our hearts. So he sits on a cute little cat here, but the teaching is that the lion is, you ever been in a cage with a crazy lion? No, right? One day somebody's going to say yes, but not today. So that's what it would be like. Like that's the anger, the ignorance, the madness in our head is like being in a cage with a crazy lion. But with the practice of wisdom, the lion becomes just a cute cat, playful. So keep cultivating whatever you're doing. Same thing. There's no like, it's not like fast pass to Disneyland. You're on the path. You're doing the work. Just keep going, but don't be so hard on yourselves. It's like you got angry that you had compassion. Like, come on. Like, pat yourself on the back and be like, be proud of yourselves for doing the practice. Yeah. One more before we close.
I have a question.
Yeah.
During meditation, it's been said that, be aware of the surroundings and whatever's going on, but catch your own thoughts or whatever's going in your head. So, should an intention has a place during meditation, or it shouldn't? Awareness is the main goal during meditation or not? That's
Yeah, I think so. I'll close with this thought. The idea around in meditation, when thoughts arise and be aware of the surroundings, should you be aware of the thoughts, not attached to them, kind of what's going on. So a couple of things here. Different meditation practices will share them and teach them differently, right? So for me, as a Zen practitioner, what I can share is that the way I was taught is that all of the surroundings and all of the thoughts are the same thing. Because if you have an awareness of your surroundings, the sounds, right, the sensations, the smells, the lights, if you're aware of all those things, what does the awareness become? A what? A thought, right? That door just closed. Well, you hear it, right? The sense organs, this is the Heart Sutra we do on Sundays, but the sense organs become aware of the door. But that's just a sound. Then it goes into your consciousness. It all happens super fast. This is every moment of our entire life. All these sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought, are firing at once and experiencing everything. But what happens is they very quickly become consciousness, which is the thoughts. So the thoughts that you're having, like in the nature of your question, you kind of separated awareness of what's around you. You made that separate from thoughts. But what's happening around you become your thoughts. So they're all the same thing. Meaning, observe and be aware of all of them and come back to sensation of breath. Observe and be aware of all of them back to sensation of breath. So it's, for me, the kind of a visual that, you know, the game tug of war where you're like pulling both sides, right? Team goes this way, team goes that way. To me, that's what meditation is. Thought arises over here, bring it back to focus on the breath. Breath in, breath out, thought arises over here, breath in, breath out, back to the breath. The awareness, the thoughts, all of that, you're always coming back. The practice is to always come back to the breath. But the question is why, and I'll close with this thought. Anyone ever get angry? Carry anger in your life for 5 minutes or 5 years or 50 years or whatever it is? Those are all thoughts that you're angry about. Things that happened a long time ago. Oh, by the way, wonderful things have happened in your past too, but most people don't think about those. Those are not the problems in our lives. The problems are all the things we're angry at. And so when you're angry at something, recognize that that anger is just a thought. And in that thought of anger from something that happened 20 years ago, you have a choice. Do I want to stay with that thought and continue to feel the emotions of anger, or do I want to move on? And I'm not talking about suppressing emotions and ignoring or pretending things don't happen. They do. But having the ability to choose, am I going to focus on this or not? Am I going to spend the next 3 years angry about this or not? Is what training the mind is helping you do. Kind of back to your question, right? The training of the mind is allowing you to create space to where you don't have to allow those thoughts to consume you. You know, that's another way to kind of look at it. You see the crazy thoughts, you're like, I'm just going to come back to the breath. You see the neutral thoughts, I'm just going to come back to the breath. You see the pleasant thoughts, I'm just going to come back to the breath. So it's always coming back to this moment. So when you go through your day, because as soon as you walk outside, something tonight, I mean, it's like 8 o'clock, someone or something tonight will still probably piss you off. And so you'll have an opportunity to see that and watch and say, what can I do and how can I respond that might be kinder and gentler than I normally would? And see what happens. Yeah. I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. All right, before y'all head out, our Dharma Bum host Hazel has a few announcements.
We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who struggle. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They're simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery summit that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you're done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and see you all again.
And one last announcement, this Thursday, we have our 16th annual food redistribution Thanksgiving Day event. So we won't do it at 4:30, it'll be at 10 a.m. So everybody's welcome. We're gonna make sandwiches. We got a bunch of socks and a bunch of emergency blankets and toiletries and all kinds of stuff. So we'll prepare and pack everything here Sunday or Thursday, 10 to 11 or so. And then we'll head downtown and pass them out. So it'll be our normal Thursday food redistribution, like on steroids and at 10 a.m. So thank y'all. Thanks, Hazel.